Welcome to this session and welcome to Sitecore User Group Brazil. It's my first time actually, even though Rodrigo and I know us for a long time now, and we meet once or twice a year at Symposium or SUG-BR, which is, one of the greatest things, just to meet friends again, at least once or twice a year from all over the world. So thanks for the invitation, and I hope this will be valuable 45 minutes. If you have questions, we can handle them at the end. If you are lost, please remind me immediately. I will not have an eye on the chat because I don't have it here at the screens, but maybe Corey or Rodrigo, if you see anything on the chat that someone is lost, let's clarify that directly, and we can interrupt. However, today we want to talk or take a look at what's new in XM Cloud Components. And by new, I mean to recap probably the last year since I demoed it at SUG-BR in Malaga 2023. So a little bit more than a year. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sebastian. I'm now a technical product marketer at Sitecore. And I'm a father of two lovely kids. I'm a musician. I'm engaged in the community. And I worked for Sitecore since almost 5 years. It's 4 more days to conclude the 5 years. And I've been around the Sitecore ecosystem for more than 10 years now. Just about me. So as of today's agenda, I wasn't sure if everyone is already familiar with the XM Cloud Components feature, and I would start with a quick demo on giving an overview what it does, just to have everyone on the same page. But of course, the majority of the part is that we go into the new stuff and what has been added since the last year. So, and last but not least, you might end up with a bit of confusion and ask yourself how to move forward building components in XM Cloud. So I hope I will be able to clarify this as well and give some advice at the end. But before we start, I think it's good to handle. I think I mentioned that already with a question. So let's directly start. So quick question into the round to understand if we can skip the next part because you all are familiar with the component builder. So you can use the emoji solution and put a thumbs up if you know XM Cloud already. XM Cloud Component Builder already, or have seen a demo of it or something like that. And if you have no clue, you can use the surprised emoji. Just that I get some. Yeah, it's not the hands up. It's more the. So I see some mixed reactions, which is good, but also leads me to the next question. So for those of you who have seen the component builder already, have you used it already? Same functionality. Thumbs up. So I see more surprised faces. Kind of expected, to be honest, but okay. So I will just go quickly through the first part, giving everyone a quick introduction on what XM Cloud Component Builder is and what it does. And I start from the very scratch, but don't take too much time on those slides. But in general, the product portfolio of Sitecore has grown in the past years. It has grown massively. And beside the platform products, XM, XP, or XM Cloud, we also offer now a wide range of software as a service products. And today we want to focus about XM Cloud, and more precise, we want to focus on a feature that XM Cloud offers, which is the component builder, and that's uniquely available for XM Cloud. So maybe to set the scene and get a common understanding what a component is, and I believe we have a common understanding. It's such a central piece of building websites. I think, but just to say, a component is a visual reusable building block to be used to design the page of your website or web shop. And each component has a different purpose or functionality, sometimes just displaying text or images, sometimes with call to actions or more sophisticated functionality, some data integrations. And in the case of the screenshot, we see several components, but let's focus just on this little text image component here. So what I would expect is that I can reuse the UI of the component itself, And I can select a known data source to it, so I can use the UI with different data, and I can use also the same component with the same data on different pages so that I can manage the content centrally, right? So that just to set the scene a bit. And the XM Cloud Components is an in-browser front-end as a service. What you see is what you get component builder. So XM Cloud Components adds an option to XM Cloud to enable marketers or also non-technical persons to take more responsibility in the component creation process. That does not mean that this replaces developers completely, but we will have a look on what that means for developers and how you as developers can interact with the component builder. You can work with design atoms or molecules or other components to create functional UI components from scratch. You can connect these components with a wide variety of data sources and power them by data flowing in from one or many providers. And XM Cloud Components allows you to design style sheets and theming, so that's all baked into the product. It's mostly no code or low code, and but you also have a coded option that we will explore later in that presentation. And the great thing is that all components are totally reusable, not in the sense that you can use it on several pages. For sure you can, but you can also use that across channels because they are delivered as web components, and you can use that in your mobile app, you can use that in your kiosk app, you can use that wherever you want to and manage that centrally from components. Now, enough of slides. Let's have a look onto the component builder, and let me move into, where's my browser? There we go. So I'm here in XM Cloud, and I have opened the components builder already. If you don't know how to get there, so if you are opening XM Cloud, you're usually in that. Okay, fail to authorize. Maybe I need to reload it. There we go. So I have some sites here, and then you go into tools, and then you find the component builder here with a list of all the features you have available and all the UIs basically. So I have that opened already, and the component builder offers you options to create components. And the first thing you usually do is you create a collection, and a collection bundles components so that you can organize them in a better way. And the collections are also later on used, and you will see that later on in pages, to structure your component list or your toolbox, so that you can organize basically your components, and marketers and business users can find those components faster. Now let me add a collection and give that a name, and I call it SUG-BR, for example, and then save that. It's something like a folder, right? And now I can create a new component. So I give that a new name, and that's just a very, very simple example. You could also give it a description, and you can change the collection if you created it in the wrong one. So I can also add it to other ones, but the one I'm starting with is basically the default one. So let me save that and start to edit it. Right, so you're always starting with an empty canvas. This is something that we call section here in the component builder. And what I want to do is I want to rebuild this component here coming from the Sitecore.com website. I've shown this demo before, but let me just do that. And so what I want to do is I need to create such kind of card, and then this background image and some text on it. So let me just do that. So it's all basically drag and drop. So I'm creating this area here, and by default, it's always creating a block, and I can change that to the card that I wanted to use. And now I'm going back, once this sharing hover element is gone, right? I'm just going here and copy all the stuff from here and just going back and paste it here. So the nice thing is now that it identified the elements and created the text that I copied into my component builder directly in dedicated elements. So you can see it's using an H1 here, it's using a paragraph here, and here I'm having another paragraph for the link. So I'm going to change that later on, but let's leave that for now. And one thing that's obviously missing is the background image. So what I can do is on the section, I can define a background image. and I'm using a static URL. So I cannot upload an image from to the component builder. I have to host it somewhere. That could be your DAM, for example, where you have a public link to access it publicly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just copying the URL from that image, and that should be this one here. So go here, copy in the URL, and there you go. So it looks already pretty close. Not 100% what the other component was about, but I prepared already a theme. Now a theme is a collection of different stylings that you can set here in the style section. So you can define fonts, you can define how your cards are looking, how your paddings and margins are. All of that you can define up front and bundle that into a theme. And once I switch the theme, you can see it's much closer to what it was before. So I could also use a button here now for the learn more, but I leave that for now just to say that yeah, how quick and easy you can basically create new components without writing a single line of code. Now, once you're fine with that component, you need to stage it, and that makes the component available in Pages. If you want to see that on the public website, of course, you need to also publish it. So let me do that now as well. And yeah, the component is published. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go into my website and see my new component. So let me go into the SUG site and into the component list. And you can see here's my newly created collection. So I have that listed here, and here's my component. So I can drag and drop that onto my page, and it appears within a few seconds. So yeah, here's my new component. It's partially, I would say, partially responsive. It's not directly fitting mobile very well, but you can create a mobile variant for it. So it's more of an adaptive approach where you can handle then different resolutions or serving different breakpoints. Right. This one is not inline editable from here. All the content in the way I build it now is handled from the component builder. Right. Going back to the slides. There we go. Now, one thing I mentioned in the beginning was that you can also have, beside the static content that you just saw in the last demo, you can also have external data sources, and you can configure them for any kind of third-party system to pull data via REST or GraphQL API. You can also use Content Hub 1 either through the API, or there's also a native integration, which we will see later on. And of course, you can use data sources coming from XM Cloud. And also to quickly showcase that, we are going into the component builder again and going back to the start screen. So what I will do now, I don't want to recreate the component. I'm just duplicating it here and say, this is my hero component with XM Cloud data sources, there we go, save it, and go into the demo again, into the builder again. Now, what I want to do is I want to map that now to an XM Cloud data source, and therefore I mark the field that I want to use. And here on the right side, you can click on text, and you can see it's currently set to static, but I'm switching now to mapped, and it's giving me a list of available templates that I can use that have been shared with the component builder. So you can configure what template should be actually available to the component builder. And the most famous example, as usual, is the promo component. So let's also use it this time. And I'm going to use the promo text for my heading 1. And what it's doing is it's pulling just the first promo data source that it finds, just to give you a glimpse of what it might look at the end. So this is just demo content, but you will connect the content later on the page, which we'll also see. Now, going for the paragraph, it's the same process, having it mapped maybe to promo text 2, and then we make this, let me just remove that quickly and make that a button. So I add an element, where do I have buttons? Here in inline elements. There we go. And I add it here to the card at the end. Now a button obviously has a text which is like the label. And here we have somewhere the promo link. Where is it? There it is. So we're using the text of the promo link, and then going back, I can use the link and map it as well to the promo link href. There we go. Last thing we need to do is we need to map also an image, right? So mapping the image, and here I'm using the promo icon source field. So you can see it's pulling then the image that's coming from the original promo source. So let me stage and publish this one as well and go into pages. Now I need to refresh my browser window here to see the changes. And yeah, so here's my new component, XM Cloud, Hero XM Cloud data source. So let me add this one here on top. And it's asking me for a data source. So that's the known behavior, right? So let me pick one data source that I find here directly under the home page. So that's the promo left. And I assign it. And there we go. So we have a heading, we have some paragraph text, we have the read more button, and we have the background image. And of course, I can swap also the data source. So that's basically the native XM Cloud data source integration. However, I can still not manage the content inline from here. I would have to go to the data source item and manage it there. Right, back to slides. Yeah, that was the demo. Right, just a short introduction about what the component builder is about. And this is all pretty much documented and shown in various YouTube channels, either by us on the Discover Sitecore channel. You see some of the videos we've created. You see a majority of my faces on those, but also Thomas Desmond has created one. But also in the community, you find a lot of documents around that. So if you wanna get started with that topic, yeah, I recommend just going through those videos to see what I just showed in a few minutes. See that in more detail. But yeah, we are here for what's new, right? So let me start this with the roadmap I shared last year. And actually compare what has been implemented and what maybe not. So as mentioned last year at SUGCon, I ended my presentation with exactly that slide. So it says Roadmap 2023. What we wanted to achieve is we wanted to improve the developer experience and allow developers to also code components using the Bring Your Own Components feature. And we wanted to offer a way to preview components, and we also wanted to have a React SDK. Yeah, and as I said, that was the plan in 2023. That's not like let's see what we've done. And then feature-wise, the plan was to have there was the data source integration with any third-party vendor was not synchronized. So the idea was that also other third-party vendor data sources can be synchronized in a way that you configure the connection once and get always the updates of the content. So currently it's a one-time pull, or by that time it was a one-time pull. Right. As I mentioned, the components are delivered as web components, so they are rendered client-side. The product planned also to provide a solution to render them server-side as well. And then another thing that was planned was offering an ability to also use custom CSS. So not only use the style builder, basically, which is a no-code solution to style everything. But if you're not able to style it in that way with those capabilities, you're also able to use your custom CSS. That's the plan. So let's start with something simple, the preview of components. So when you're in the component builder, in the top mid section, you have this inspect button or the inspect dropdown, and you can enable the preview when you toggle all those switches on. So if you do that, you can see that the label changes to preview, and yeah, and then you are in the preview. So nothing more than that. Next topic. Maybe something more interesting is the Bring Your Own Components feature, or short BYOC. I just I'm not sure if so. Robert Hawk is also presenting on that topic, and he has a lot of good blog posts. So I'm not sure if he presented at your user group already. If so, that might be a bit of repetition. I'm sorry for that, but yeah, let's still go through that. So I would like to demo that again because I think nothing is better than a real life demo. And the component I want to build is something simple. So I want to have like a video teaser, which shows me, yeah, a heading or headline, and then I maintain a YouTube ID to embed the video basically, and then I have yeah, some descriptive text. So something very simple, but just in a way to code that. And yeah, let's do that. Where's my Visual Studio Code? Just a second. There we go. So I'm here in a solution that's based on the foundation head, and yeah, nothing changed. I think I downloaded it, I don't know, 4 weeks ago maybe, so it's quite fresh. And it's right. I have my components here, so you can see there are some of the out-of-the-box components that are provided, and then there are some. There's a dedicated BYOC folder to keep bring your own components, or bring your own code components outside of the components folder, because JSS is indexing those components, and the more you add there, the more you might see some issues with performance. So just to overcome that, just what's happening here? Let me just clear that. Right. So what I want to do now is I want to create a new component, a BYOC component, and I can use the JSS CLI for it. And I can use the scaffold command, scaffold. And now I have to provide the path. You can see I did this demo before, so that's why you see those commands in the history. Helps me a bit to not mess it up. So what I want to do is, usually when you use that command to create a new component, you don't have to provide the path, but you can just use the component name. But as I want to place it in a different path, I provide also the path. So I'm saying it should go under source/BYOC, and now I'm giving the name video text SUG Brazil. And the next thing is I'm passing the 1 dash or 2, I don't remember, I think like that. I'm passing the BYOC parameter just to say that I want to use the template of a BYOC component. So let me start that, and I think I started it in a wrong location. Yeah, I did that. So let me go into the right folder, so into the source folder and into the SXA starter folder, and run that command again. So now it's scaffolding that component for me, and in a bit you can see that this has been created. So here's my user group Brazil video component. Now every BYOC component is structured in the same way. You define your parameters here in the very top, and then you have your output basically, so the markup of your component, and then, well, that actually doesn't look like a BYOC component, to be honest. Let me just double check one thing.
I think it's because you put Boise on the end instead of BYOC.
Thank you. Let me just delete that. Yeah, you're right. Should be it. So BYOC. Let's check what this does. Okay, next trial. Here we are, that looks more familiar, right? Yeah, so this is a sample component. It works right away. It has a title field, and then it has a field for the columns count, and then it has some, yeah, it's doing something here, but then having the output basically, so it's putting out the name of the component, and And a more interesting part here is the register component method that you have to fill, which actually, yeah, as the method name says, it registers your component. So that's what you did before with the rendering item. You no longer have to create items for that. You can completely do that in code. Now let's make it the component we wanted to create, and I have a little cheat sheet here on that screen. So let me use that. So first, I want to define the fields, and I said it's a headline, which is of type string, and the YouTube ID of type string, and then a text of type string. And let me also get the output from here. So I'm copying that bit. Fine. I'm using what's that called? Fix. I'm using Chakra UI, so I have to import these things just to get rid of the errors. Doesn't want that. How about Flex? Just adding it manually here, but doesn't want to add it itself. And is editor active? So, right. So what I'm doing here is, well, I'm just outputting the stuff, right? So I'm outputting my headline. I'm outputting, well, I'm adding the YouTube ID here to the embed code, and then I'm also outputting the text here. So nothing too complicated, as I said. Now, what I need to do here is, so now I need to take care about registering that component. And as you can see, it shows an error because I'm defining properties that I haven't defined in my interface. So let me change that and copy actually the code that I want to use for the registration here. So I'm using name. So here we go. So errors are gone. So I have a name of my component, which is the video text SUG Brazil, which maps to the file name, the TSX file name. But I can also use the title field, which is actually then later on displayed in Pages. And then I can group that into a different group. So let's say I put it in SUG Brazil, not SUG Brazil. Would be a good idea though. Right, and then I define my properties. So this is what we'll see later on in Pages to edit the content. So I have a headline field, which the title is headline. That's what's shown to the marketer basically, and then you can define the type, which is of type string, easy example, and we have a descriptive text that's also shown along with the field, so that people know what to put there. Same goes for the YouTube ID. Same goes for the text. Now, in addition to that, you can also change the appearance of those fields. So on the one hand, for the headline field, I'm defining a new UI. And I'm saying that the UI placeholder should contain the text "write your own headline" here, which means I have some text in that field already, which vanishes once I start typing. It's just another additional help. And then another thing I've done here is I have the text. The text field would be usually a single line text field, but as I'm expecting more text, maybe a text area would be better. So I can choose the UI widget of a text area to show here. Let me actually try to commit my changes. So let me stage them first, and then say new component video text teasers Brazil. I commit and push my changes and keep fingers crossed. And switching to the browser. So now in the Cloud Portal, I can switch into the XM Cloud Deploy app. And as my environment and my project is hooked up to auto deploy any change that goes into the main branch, I should see now on the dev environment here, I should see an ongoing deployment. So you can see there is something in progress. So let's keep fingers crossed that this is done in a few minutes. And I'll continue with slides, and then we'll have a look if that component actually shows up. Right. Maybe one thing to mention. I mentioned Robert Hogg already. He has a great blog post about how to best utilize those fields here. So here you have an example of a component showing these fields, a single line text field, or here the select field, for example. But you can use all kinds of fields. You can define what's in what title is shown, what description is shown. So you get this little information bubble here, and so on. So he describes that very well, and it's all based at the end on UI schema. So he links that as well from his blog post, and you can see all kinds of things you can do with the appearance of those fields in pages. Now that's not a Sitecore thing, but we're just utilizing the UI schema here. Right. Yeah, back to slides. So I think the BYOC, or bring your own component way to implement components, is very simple. It takes definitely less time to onboard new developers. We measured it, it also takes less time to develop components compared to a regular headless SXA component. However, we will see once it's deployed that it does still not support inline editing, but you can edit it at the sidebar, which is very close to inline editing, but it's not the same for sure. There is only a limited set of field types available, and for example, basic field types like rich text or image are currently not available, which is sad. There are some more limitations with multi-site user experience. For example, component builder components cannot be limited to certain page types, so you don't have placeholder restrictions, and it can also not be limited to certain sites. You have to understand that the way how the component builder is provisioned as an app, it's provisioned per project. Like if you have the XM Cloud structure in mind, so usually you get an organization with Sitecore, which is your starting point. That's your entry point with a cloud portal, and then when you get XM Cloud provisioned, you can create a project which is usually bound to a repository, and then within that project you can have several environments, and each environment obviously can have multiple sites, right? And the components provisioning is per project. So all the components you create are available for all your environments within that project. Just something you need to know. That can be good, that can be bad. As I said, it's something to keep in mind. Right, another topic. Custom styles was on the list. So let's talk about that then. It has been implemented, and it has been implemented on element level. An element is what I added. So when I created in my very first demo, when I created the component, I added elements to the canvas or to the section. So that's an element. So you can have text elements like headlines or DSP, paragraph elements. You can have inline elements such as buttons or labels or stuff like that, or block elements such as sections or cards. And on that level, you can go into the details and then have a tab for custom CSS. So in that example here, you can see I just did something stupid, just turned the background color to pink. I could have done that in the styles, obviously. It's not in the custom CSS, but also in the no-code styles. But it directly shows effects, so that's why I chose that example. And you can see that in the preview that this card will be shown in pink. So tick mark. That has been done. Another thing that was not in the list, but still has been implemented, is custom fonts. Before we only offered Google fonts, and of course, a lot of our customers use their own fonts and have very strict regulations on that. So what you can do now is when you create a new font, of course, you can choose still a Google font, but you can also add a custom font, and you can use that, do that by defining your own font face. And either pick a font from your local, which doesn't make sense in a web context, but you can also reference a font that you have on some server. You can even use this button here on the right top corner, which says fetch remote CSS file. So you just have to configure a URL where you have a CSS with a font face defined, and that gets imported. If there are more defined, you get a list, and you can check them here So in my case, I just defined one, so that's why I just have the regular 400 for the Muro font. So that's done as well. Now, third-party data sources in Sync. As mentioned before, you could only fetch things one time. That doesn't apply for XM Cloud. It's only for API integration via REST or GraphQL. Now, one thing has been changed, which is the Content Hub 1 integration got a more native integration with Component Builder. So you can simply configure the delivery API key in the settings of the Component Builder, and then you have all the content models available in the in the Component Builder, and then you can utilize that. Great. So let's have an eye on our deployment then before we go towards the end. So this is my browser. Here's XM Cloud deploy. So it completed. That's already good. So let's see if we see that component. Last time it didn't show up. So fingers crossed it does now. Components. It doesn't seem to be here, but it's also not fully loaded. It's not here, so I have to figure out why not. However, I have the same component deployed here already, so let me just use that and add it to the page. To do that, oh no, here it's loading. So here we go. That's my fresh component without any content. And then here on the right side, I have this configuration availability, and I can put some headline. And now you can see this little information box, which gives me the description text. And here's the placeholder UI. So yeah, let's use Bugbusters admin B. I don't have the right video available, I guess. But let's just choose any YouTube ID and put some text here. Lorem ipsum something. I can update that, and that updates my screen, my page on the left side. At least it should. Loading. Let's see what video we got. Okay, it's Symposium 2024. So that's how it works with the BYOC component. Again, not directly in line, but very like 10 to 15 centimeters, depending on your screen size, away from inline. Great, yeah. Back to slides. So having a look on the roadmap and what we got, just to summarize, we got the bring your own code or bring your own component feature, so that's great. We have some preview functionality, that's also great, but the React SDK has not been released yet. So I talked to the product team. It is in work. It was not yet in the shape to be released. So yeah, stay tuned, I would say. And feature-wise, we have at least the Content Hub 1 data source integration in Sync. And of course, the native integration with XM Cloud, that's also in Sync. But any other integration, as far as I know, needs to be re-pulled into the component builder. The components are also not yet rendered server-side. So also here, the component team gave me the feedback that's in a similar state like the React SDK. So it's not yet ready for production, but they have worked on it. And then the custom CSS was delivered. And in addition to that, we also got custom fonts. And I'm also mentioning forms here. I mean, forms is an own product. However, forms are delivered through the component builder. So that's why I'm mentioning it here. And of course, forms can be a whole presentation of its own. So I don't want to go deep into that, just to mention it here. So yeah, I told you that you might be a bit confused now after that presentation. It looks, at least to my perspective, it looks pretty cool. Pretty great user experience, especially with bring your own components feature. But we also see the limitations. There's nothing to hide here. And yeah, how to move forward now with building components in XM Cloud. And that's exactly the topic that that we raised at SUG-BR Europe this year. And Christian Hahn and also myself, we presented a rock-off and compared all ways to create components in XM Cloud, meaning, and yeah, we did this component Rockoff. And what we did was we created use cases and analyzed per persona that we thought these use cases would apply. What solutions are offered basically by the component builder, so the no-code option, what options are offered by BYOC, and then what options are offered by the traditional way using headless SXA and JSS, and how they solve that. So that leads me to that aggregated comparison table here. As mentioned several times, the component builder is currently the only no-code option, and it's great for any non-technical people. It's great for marketers or designers to build components, but also for developers. I mean, we don't always have to write code, right? It can serve several viewports. It's having adaptive design. You can use custom styles and custom fonts. You have basically all data source scenarios are supported, and the only thing is that component builder components, same as BYOC components, do not play well with partial designs. If you need to have a relative path defined for your data source, then that doesn't work with anything coming from the component builder. I mentioned that already. Component builder and BYOC also don't support placeholder restrictions or other limitations per site. I explained that. So all components are always visible on all environments and all sites within the same project. And using the XM Cloud data source enables multilingual support for all solutions. BYOC, however, lacks support for some crucial field types, such as rich text and images. I also mentioned that. And then performance-wise, we tested it as well. They all performed pretty well. Yeah, nothing bad here. Also, personalization works same for all components. However, only headless SXA supports personalization for compatible renderings. Yeah, if you want to use that, again, that's on headless SXA. And then the component builder component lacks support for some accessibility features, such as the alt text on images. In BYOC, you can have them. In the component builder, there's just no way to edit those. So, and then there's no inline editing in pages for component builder components. But it's also not meant like that. I mean, you want to centrally manage that and use those components in several channels. I think that's fine. And BYOC components, as we've seen, can be edited from the sidebar, though. So not too bad. So when shall we then use what? And the component builder is great for any no-code things. So it's still recommended to be used for any no-code scenarios. However, you need to check the requirements and if they work with the current feature set and have those lists that I just showed you in mind. For most components, it's recommended to continue with headless SXA and JSS components. So if you want to code a component, it's the best option currently, and it's recommended also by the Accelerate recipes to go for headless SXA/JSS. And in most cases, I see projects being separated into like XM Cloud specialists or former backend developers and then application developers. So usually you have someone caring about all the item work, creating the data model, meaning the templates, creating the component registration, meaning the rendering items and all of that. And then you have someone doing the application work. I've created 2 videos about that if you want to check that process on the sample component. Right. And a bit of an outlook. So we've seen the simplified component registration process with the bring your own component feature. It's great that you don't have to go into XM Cloud and create items to register that, and you don't have to create a data model for it in items. But only headless SXA and JSS are solving all of the requirements currently. So the good news is that Liz Nelson, the new I don't know her exact title, but let's say head of XM Cloud, something like that. She mentioned, or she shared at the SUG-Con in Europe in 2024 that the product team is currently working on connecting the best of both worlds. So meaning the feature set of headless SXA and the component registration of the Bring Your Own Component feature. So yeah, stay tuned for what's happening there. I haven't seen it. I think it's also not yet implemented. That's currently the vision of merging that in a way that you have great developer experience and also a rich feature set. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I might have left you with some questions, so feel free to ask them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sebastian. This looks to be evolving. We do have some questions in the chat, so I'm dropping the first. Tiago Fiorin, for the component that you created in the very beginning of this presentation.
Mhm.
You created and added the content into the component itself. How does it work for multi-language?
So if you are hosting, like if you are managing the content from XM Cloud Component Builder, so my very first demo, then it doesn't support multiple languages. It only supports one language. You need to use an XM Cloud data source to have multi-language support. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone in this call, please, the audience, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. The next one, any further details about the Bring Your Own component being reworked or redesigned to work closer to the headless SXA?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's currently more a vision to bring them closer together. But I haven't heard anything on the solution right now, so I can't tell how this is going to be. I can't tell. The only advice I can give is just stay with the headless SXA components. That's probably the best way to go forward. And then for any no-code scenario, you can use the component builder. But BYOC is probably not a good way to start with.
But do you have any idea what that means to bring closer to the SXA headless components? Does that mean they will be available in a toolbox or be under the same architecture? Do you have any idea around that?
No,
On
I
the
don't at the
vision?
moment.
No.
Honestly, I don't.
Uh-huh. Maulik has asked, beyond a lot of jokes that we are having a lot of fun in the chat, can I use GraphQL query as a data source for the data components?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you as mentioned, if we just quickly go back, where is it? Component builder, this one? Yes, it is. So you can define here in the data sources section, you see those XM Cloud imported data source, but you can also add your own one, give it a name, and then you can you can have static JSON that you just put here if you have if you just want to mock something, but you can also fetch it as a REST request, and then you can define also your query, like having your endpoint defined here. You can also define the headers here, and then in the body you can define the query. So that's how you did the integration with Content Hub 1 before. But as I mentioned, now Content Hub 1 has now this native integration here through the settings with the Content Hub 1. But that works for anything that doesn't have a native integration and has a REST endpoint or a GraphQL endpoint. Yeah.
And can you pass any parameters to these calls, or you have to hard code the URL that you're calling?
It's hard coded at the moment. So if you need to go for any URLs or anything more than that, then you're probably back to BYOC or headless SXA components at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see what else. Some people are saying they are missing the IIS reset time to relax. Yeah. All right. No, I think, okay, does the component builder have an API? Dylan Young.
Good question. I don't know. I haven't I haven't checked, to be honest. I don't know. Nothing to bullshit around. I simply don't know.